allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call, please.
Chairman Michael.
Here.
Judy Ogawa.
Here.
Robert Howard.
Here.
Steve Rowledge.
Here.
Ray Tuniolo.
Here.
Lawrence Staley Perry.
Here.
Denise Winfrey.
Here.
Okay, we have a quorum. We have minutes from November 10th. Any additions or corrections?
Move.
We have a motion.
Second.
Second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. New business is zoning case 6273 concerning a alcohol recovery home. Kimberly?
Good morning. Thank you, Chairman Weigel. The subject property for zoning case 6273 is located in Joliet Township. The applicant is requesting a map amendment from C2 to R3 and a special use permit for a drug and alcohol recovery home for the purpose of a 30-day stay facility for a drug and alcohol recovery home. This morning I distributed a memo that stated a change with the conditions, that a fourth condition had been added. If anyone needs one, please let me know. I have one available. A letter of objection was distributed as well. A late objector submitted a letter of objection to the Land Use Department. The case was heard by the Planning and Zoning Commission on December 1st, and the request was approved with a 6-0 vote. The subject property is a 3.47 acre lot located west of Manhattan Road and north of Blairway Road. The property has an asphalt entrance to Manhattan Road with an asphalt parking lot and a brick building that was previously used as a daycare center for children. The subject property is zoned C2. The property is surrounded on 3 sides by the Green Tree subdivision, zoned R3, with A1 to the east and C2 located to the southeast. The petitioner is proposing a recovery home that will provide counseling and care to patients in a safe environment over a 30-day period. Care will be provided 24 hours daily, as patients will stay overnight. The home will offer programs to help residents of the community recuperate from the effects of drug and alcohol addiction. The petitioner estimates there will be approximately 10 total employees. There is proposed construction to take place for interior improvements. The interior will be divided into smaller offices and living spaces. It is estimated that there will be an average of 10 daily vehicle trips. The petitioner indicated that the anticipated noise level of the intended use will be no different than existing conditions. The applicant proposes to reduce the parking area and provide a screen along the west and south property boundaries, a hedge of arrowwood viburnum that the mature height is expected to reach 6 to 10 feet is proposed. Other plant material includes red sunset and blue spruce as well. The following agencies were notified by the Land Use Department: the Will County Health Department, Illinois Department of Transportation, the East Joliet Fire Protection District, Will South Cook Soil and Water Conservation District, the Village of New Lenox, the City of Joliet, and the Joliet Township. No objections were received from these agencies. Staff recommends approval of a map amendment from C2 to R3 and approval of a special use permit for a drug and alcohol addiction recovery home with 4 conditions. That concludes staff analysis.
Thank you. Any questions by the committee?
I was wondering how many clients would be there? What's the maximum that would be there at one time?
I think the applicant could better explain the details.
Would you like to come down to the podium? State your name for the record, please.
John Bays,
Dr. Bipin Sharma.
And Dr. Badu Sharma.
Okay. The question was how many people would be at the facility?
We're currently requesting approval for 15 to 20 residents at any given time in the 30-day stay.
Okay. Other question?
Yeah, with the residents that are there, are they they're at will, meaning that they can sign themselves out at any time? And then means of transportation, I mean, if they sign themselves out, will they just walk in the front door and simply start walking through the neighborhood?
The kind of facility that we're proposing is more high-end. These will be clients that will be coming in from out of state, typically, for drug and alcohol rehab. So they wouldn't be technically signing themselves out or wandering around in the neighborhood. If clients did choose to leave, they would be planned exit. So it wouldn't just be that they'd be released into the community, they would be taken out, sent back to their home or driven back to their home, chauffeured, if you will. Yeah.
Yeah, but are they at will, though? I mean, they're at will.
Oh, correct, yes. They're here. This is not a state mandated facility. This is not something where the courts will send people over to this organization. The clients coming here recognize that they have a drug and alcohol issue, and they will be checking in because they want to actually do something
And
about
if
it.
they wanted to walk out the front door and say, I'm an American citizen, I'm walking out of here, I'm going.
No, they would be escorted. They would be, again, it would be a planned exit strategy. They would be taken from the facility back to whichever residence that they originated from.
Okay, thank you.
You said currently, I'm sorry, Tom.
Go ahead.
You said currently 10 to 20, 15 to 20 people? So what would be then the maximum that you would house there?
This would be the maximum.
So it would be 20 is the maximum.
The
at
maximum,
any time.
any 30-day
Even into the
period.
future, whatever be housed there within any 30-day period,
Correct.
20 people. How did you have to pick that site?
I'd like to say these people have to pay, like the cost to stay there for 30 days is like $10,000. These people can't have any jail record or anything, any criminal violations. They just have to have an alcohol or drug problem. They're screened. This is a high-end deal. It's not something where you public aid or anything like that gets involved. These people are pretty wealthy people that know they got a problem and they need to try to fix it.
You had asked a question.
How did you have to choose that location, yes?
We've been searching for locations for probably over a year. This location, given that it's a little bit more far-flung, it's on a very large property, and the construction of the building itself is a 2008 model, so it passes all of the state and fire regulations that were necessary. All of the older construction, it would have been a healthier investment in order to get those buildings up to code. This building was, since it was constructed in 2008, it was already approved by the fire department as a operating daycare facility at one time, so it passed all those regulations. It met our requirements as well for the state and the Joint Commission accreditation that we would need.
Another question?
So this is like a Dr. Drew type scenario, not basically is what.
You've probably seen the late night TV commercials for a place called Malibu Passages.
Yeah.
The type of facility that we're proposing is very high-end. It does address all of the client's needs holistically. Gourmet chef, yoga, meditation. It's a therapeutic community. And we also address the medical concerns that the clients will have.
So if I was a resident living in a community adjacent to it, and I was in a home, basically I'm assured that this isn't residents that are going to, I'm going to go down to the 7-Eleven or something, I'm going to walk down to the 7-Eleven and come back, or I'm going to go hang out.
No, they would not be wandering around the neighborhood. This is the type of clients that we envision having at our facility are going to be persons like you and I that recognize one day when they wake up that drugs or alcohol have impacted their life, and they actually have something to lose. They want to be there, they want to get their treatment, and typically it's very discreet. This isn't it's not designed to be something where anyone who's there can, or decides that they can actually show up at this facility. All of our clients are going to be pre-screened off-site, and they actually have to want this program. This isn't something where we're just going to open our doors and let the floodgates, whoever decides that they want to come in to reside at a 30-day location. These are people that are actually very serious about their recovery.
Okay.
I have a question. Or didn't you say nothing?
what efforts have you made to reach out to the neighbors in that community? It's in my district, and I'm familiar with the neighbors there, and they're not very open to this facility or any kind of new business coming in there. There's a very strong constituency there that is opposed to anything commercial. So I'm wondering what efforts you've made to reach out to that community to reassure them, if any.
We did attend the previous board meeting, which there were residents here. We openly addressed their concerns. The questions that they had, we answered them to the best of our capability. We addressed the previous board that actually heard this this proposition before as well. Alongside that, we've sent out notifications that we are opening this facility and or hoping to open this facility, and primarily that's about it. But again, it's not something that we're opposed to as far as investing in the community or reaching out to other members that may have concerns.
I'd like to say that I think only 2 or 3 residents did show up and wasn't happy with it. I've talked to several residents myself that didn't have a problem with it. And there is security guards there where nobody can walk outside or go anywhere. Plus the doctors are there 24 hours a day. There's probably as much staff as there is clients. This is definitely, I think this is a good thing for the county. I think it's a lot of money. If you only have 10 residents there, it's $300,000 a month they're going to bring in for tax dollars. And this is it's kind of way out to where it's not a good retail spot. It's not a good spot for an office building. And it's got a lot of land with it. You got 3.5 acres between you and the neighbors there. I mean, I think this is a real good thing for the county.
Judy, you have one question?
He actually ended up answering it. I was just wondering if, I don't know if this would be appropriate or not, but if you might consider like having an open house after you have done the remodeling, before you had accepted clients, so that maybe if the residents saw, they would feel a little more comfortable or something like that.
Actually, part of our plan is that when we do get the approval and we do finish our construction, that we would open it up to not only the community members, but also other mental health professionals in the area, where we would be asking them to come to visit our facility on a particular day or night, where they can come and see, ask questions about our program, see what we're all about. We're not opposed to that.
Mr. Chairman, may I?
Okay. Brooks?
Doctor, you and Mr. Bays did a very good job presenting the difference between your facility and any other facility out there. However, if you were to characterize this facility, I guess the word I'm looking for, what would make you unique and or differ from many other facilities all over Will County right now? Mr. Bays, you mentioned some, public aid recipients, others, anybody take them. What would be a what would be a phrase that would differ your facility, doctor, from all the others that communities all around have concerns about? What would differ your facility?
I think we would consider ourselves to be like a discrete Club Med of addiction homes.
Okay. But man,
Never been.
I just have to ask you guys, have you looked at the weather report around Illinois?
Sounds
They're looking at Malibu and Joliet, Illinois. I mean, it might make a difference.
You know, in my experience, when clients recognize that they need the help, they're willing to go wherever it takes. And generally speaking, you would have and actually see clients leaving California to get away from their lives so that they can actually come and focus on their recovery for 30 days. So, in my opinion, the colder the better. You know, they'll manage to come this way just because they want to focus on their recovery.
All right, thank you.
Brady?
No, good.
Okay.
Okay. So what I'm hearing is this is more of like a Betty Ford kind of a place,
Yes.
generally speaking, not exactly necessarily. And some of those programs use physical activity as a part of the recovery process. So which says to me that maybe neighbors will see people outside. I know that you're going to put in quite a bit of landscaping. What about fencing to contain it? I realize that these are people who are coming because they want to be there. Still aware that people in the neighborhood are concerned, whether rightly or wrongly, that people can come out onto their property, that kind of thing. So what else besides landscape screening will be used to contain the facility?
Alongside of landscape, the landscape proposal that we made, the property already has a boundary fence. Granted, it's chain link, it's not completely private. However, that is something that we're going to install there. You know, my objective is, as long as these clients are there, they also don't want to intermingle with the community, because their primary focus is to do what they need to do in order to improve their lives and get back to the business of living. The property itself will be, the fence issue will be addressed. We will be putting in, 6 to 8 foot privacy fence along the property boundary, just to make sure that, this issue is not something where, residents raised before, where they had actually said that, this is a concern that we had, that, what if our kids are in the backyard or something along those lines. Our privacy for our clients is our first priority. And more importantly, even when our clients are in or walking around the vicinity, they are surrounded by security. So they're not left to their own measures. If they go outside, there's a security guard that accompanies them and makes sure that they're not doing anything that they're not supposed to be doing. They have to follow a very strict code of conduct. They have to ensure that they will agree to the terms, and like I said, with the rigorous pre-screening process before they're even allowed into the facility, they have to understand exactly what they're in for.
Mr. Brooks, did you have something else? I'm sorry, Tom.
No, I'm good.
Okay. David?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, if screening is a concern of the committee, perhaps one additional condition you might want to consider is requiring the applicant to install a privacy fence on the perimeters. It might be the west, west. Correct me if I'm wrong, Mr. Days, but the westerly and south property lines. Is that?
Yes, I think the one side, a lot of the property is fenced by, it's got like a rolling hill or something there. I don't know if that's a water issue or what. I'm not sure why that fence was put around there. But again, this is only, most people that's going to be staying there, they said 20 is the maximum. This mostly, it's 10 to 13 people. With all the security guard there, the security guard and the doctors, these people are paying a lot of money. They're not getting this money from the state. They're paying $10,000 to come here. None of them have a criminal record. They don't accept anyone with any violations. I mean, this is a good thing for this county. It really is. It's a good thing to put it out of waste, and no matter where you go, somebody's going to complain about it. But the few little complaints that was there from the neighbors, I expected a lot more. And, it was so good.
I would support that condition.
Yeah, I just want to, I think this is a good idea, but I want to point something out for our committee. When we talk about allowing people to come or not allowing them to come, you got to remember that the property owner has a lot of uses that they can do there, not just the one that they brought. Like I don't know what it's zoned for, but they could bring in something that's really intrusive to the neighborhood, and the neighbors can't do nothing about it. Where this seems like it's not intrusive at all, and the neighbors should welcome it, instead of saying, well, we don't want, and like Denise, you said, they don't want anything. Well, they don't own the land. Tell them to buy the property if they don't like nothing to go there. And so that's kind of my opinion, that I think that we have to be careful when we tell people yes or no, that they turn, like I would turn around if I owned Lenny's gas station, and I'd put something in there that neighborhood would go nuts. I'm telling you, I'm just saying, you have to look at it in a whole different fashion.
I understand what you're saying, but I think there's a reason, there's a process, and we're good stewards to the community, and we want to make sure that we do the right thing. In this particular project, I believe this is a good fit. We all have individuals in our families that have suffered from addiction or know somebody that has gone through something like this. Some of the best results that I've seen is when a family member, a friend goes to a location, not in the heart of Chicago or Los Angeles or Miami, but out of ways where they can take their day trips when they're going as group therapy, But there are ways out close to the highways. I think this is a really good fit. However, I would be in favor of supporting some additional screening. Last but not least, this is just for drug and alcohol addiction. So it's not sexual addiction and things like that where the neighbors, you know, who have legitimate concerns if they have children in their backyard swinging on a swing set with a potential sexual predator, you know, 18 feet away.
I can speak to that if you'd like.
Sure.
You know, our screening process, the first thing that we immediately do when a client decides that they want to come in, they go through a rigorous background check, which includes a criminal history check, just like you would as far as seeking gainful employment. We do not accept people that have any type of violent offenses. We do not accept anybody that has a sexual offense of any type. We do not accept people with any type of assault, robbery, any type of criminal complaint, and we do not accept clients who have a history or have been convicted of things such as arson. Our clients are strictly people that have a drug and alcohol issue, and they recognize that they need help with that particular issue.
Great. Well, with that being said, I would be in full support of this project. I would, however, like to see just some additional screening between the project and the residents, and I would be a yes vote.
Okay, a couple more questions.
Denise?
I don't have another question, just a comment. I did support Lenny's and I support this one. I would want the screening though, and that's just so that I can balance the concerns that I know I'm going to get from that subdivision, especially the one on the west, because they have been an issue in the past. So if we can put the screening in, the fencing, and to the south there, because that one that comes off of Greek Street is to the south of them across the creek. If we can put the fencing on those two sides, then I think that that will settle the concerns that those people have been raising. So if we can do those two things, the south and the west, then I have no issues with this.
Adjacent to the residential lot that you're saying.
Right. Yeah, in addition to the trees, that we can fence on that west and south side, so those, the two main subdivisions where we usually get the complaint from, those people would be blocked off.
Yeah, along that lines, I would support this. I think this is a good fit, but I would also support the screening, but I'd like to go a step further on the screening, though. I don't want to see a PVC privacy fence in there. 4 years from now, the thing distorts out of the weather and the light hitting it. I'd almost like to see like a small berm with something like an evergreen tree or whatever, something green along the lines of green that actually would complement your area and would also complement the neighbor's property next door. Because a lot of times we'll specify a privacy fence, and there's the Cadillac privacy fences out there, and then there's the Hugos out there. And then I think that what we don't want to see is you just put up, like I said, a PVC fence. The thing comes apart in 4 years or whatever, you're not as profitable as you project, where the landlord says, I'm not going to put up anything else additional. Let's go for the best of the best now, you know. And what that does too is that builds bridges with the neighbors also too. And you know, whether it's a small berm with a tree on top, which we're very common right now, you know, and then that would hide another type of fence, you know, back there. So Dave could probably talk on that issue more.
I do want to advise the committee is that any specifics would have to be conditioned. Otherwise, the ordinance does provide options and may not even mandate some of the requirements that you are wanting to be considered. And that's one of the reasons why I mentioned perhaps the committee wanted minimum to add a condition for the implementation or the installation of a privacy fence on the west property line and the west half of the south property line. And that would be at minimum, so.
What's your feeling about it, Earl?
I'm not sure I understand. If you put the berm and put the evergreens or the bushes there, you're saying a fence also, or just you want?
If you have an existing fence there now, you have one there, chain link. All I'm saying on this side of it, just put a berm 6 foot away, like a 6 foot berm, and then put some trees on top, you know, whatever, something like that. Just something to provide a very green type atmosphere, you know, landscaping type thing like that, because you're not going to have individuals hopping this fence to get back and forth, is what we're saying. It's more if somebody backs up to it and then they fence 3 sides and they have a dog or whatever, they're covered. They have a fence there. But the problem with privacy fences is unless we specify like a certain stone fence or something like that, like a lot of municipalities are specifying privacy fences, they're moving away from a PVC fence. They're going to like a stone precast fence where they actually put it in there and it looks like simulated stone on it, that kind of stuff like that. That's what I would like to see, but we're stuck right now in order to expedite this, that we expedite this. What we want to do is we want to allow you that option to do, but I don't think we're asking for anything additional. I mean, I would say with the chain link fence, but come inside, you have plenty of room, put some kind of landscaping there that actually provides a photometric block for lights, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera.
The landscaping is already conditioned.
Right.
Just to clarify my position, I'm not looking for this to cost $7 million and have stone or foundations. All I'm saying is, I would like to see additional screening. How you do the additional screening, staff would work it out. I mean, I'm not going to get into the minutia of micromanaging exactly what's going to go there. All I'm saying is I would agree with Ms. Winfrey that the residents should have another buffer, some additional screening at all. Whatever you guys work out, in my opinion, that's where it should go.
And I'm also not wanting to specify the type of fence. The landscaping is great and the trees are going to be wonderful. I'm just thinking, because I know those people, that if there's some type of fence, and I don't really care what kind it is, as long as it's not something that is insubstantial on the outside of that landscaping, so that they can feel assured that there is some sort of, as Ray said, a buffer, a control there for them, so that I don't get a call saying, well, you know, somebody's hiding in the trees and they're about to sneak into my yard. If that's there and the trees are there, I think that's sufficient to be able to make sure that everybody's protected, those people who were residents at the facility and those people who live in the neighborhood. I think should be enough for anybody.
Do I need to make a motion to,
No, just, that's fine, and, you know, the staff will work with the applicants on the matter, and I will take their word that they will address the committee's concerns as stated on the record today sufficiently as we go forward.
You want a condition that additional screening will be provided?
I think the intent of the committee is enough. I mean, it's definitely broad enough that, I mean, that we will be getting specifics anything more than we would with that one, so.
And I would be willing to work with them and welcome them to the neighborhood. Thank you.
I'll make a motion to approve.
Second motion to approve the zoning from C2 to C3. Second. We have a motion and a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
Kim, is there a question?
I'm sorry, can I interrupt? The motion should be from C2 to R3, not
Oh, I'm
C3.
R3.
So moved.
That was my intent, was R3. You got that? Okay. I forgot to ask, are there any objectors here? Okay, there's no objector. And we need a motion for special use permit for drug and alcohol addiction recovery home.
Motion.
Motion and a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Okay, you're all set for the county board next week then.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Next item of business is text amendment for housing of chickens and residential properties.
Chickens.
David, do you have a proposal, please?
Okay, you know, at the direction of the committee, we went back and looked at the zoning ordinance, and the text amendment, you know, summarize what's before you, is that it makes the keeping of chickens permitted uses in the R1, R2, R1, R2, R2A, R3, and R4 zoning districts. Again, there's no roosters, just hens. And the minimum lot area in the R1, R2 zoning districts is 12,500 square feet, okay? And again, there's not necessarily any limitations in the R1, R2 for the number of chickens, but when you get to R2A, R3, and R4, the minimum lot area still applies at 12,500 square feet. But there's one chicken per 2,500 square feet of lot area. So if there was a 12-5 lot, you'd have 5 chickens. So I guess, you know, if the committee is acceptable with this, or if you even want to go a step further, you could even apply the number limitation to the R1, R2 zoning districts as well to try to keep a handle on the number of chickens. So it's just originally under the special use permit process, in the R1, R2 zoning districts, there never really was a limitation on the number of chickens under the special use permit process, but in the R2 and below there was. So I guess the question of the committee is, at minimum, again, it's permitted use in the R1 through R4 zoning districts. There's a minimum lot area of 12.5 with, and I guess the question of the committee is, do you want to accept this or even go a step further and limit the number of chickens in the R1 and R2 zoning districts?
Okay, we have some questions. Judy?
Where did you get the amount of room necessary for one chicken? How did you determine
Well,
that?
the original in 2012 under the R2A through R4 zoning districts, under the special use permit process, there always has been a 1 per 2,500 square feet. And that's just what came out of the zoning ordinance update in 2012. Now, I will let you know that we did have discussions with Mark Schneiderman regarding this matter. And he had some concerns, but I think he felt that, particularly with the minimum lot area of 12.5, almost a quarter acre, alleviated some of his concerns, and then even more so was the 1 per 2,500 square feet. So basically, in kind of summarizing what his thoughts are, is that having a minimum lot area and kind of limiting the number of chickens addressed his concerns from an agricultural standpoint. So I mean, that's kind of where we're coming from.
Well, along this line, it's just so we don't send the wrong message to the public out there, is they still have to go through the public, or they still have to go through the building department, et cetera, et cetera. So there's still going to be a substantial cost involved with the chickens.
It depends.
Can you build a structure on there, or?
Not necessarily. There's what they call chicken tractors, which could be as simple as a framed-in chicken wire screen on wheels that people move around the yard to fertilize the yard. So
how do we get that clarification out there, that message out there for them? So, I mean, if they come into the building department now and they say, you know what, I'm gonna have some chickens in my backyard, and I'm thinking about building something, do we have something already presented that says, look, if you go with something like this, you do not require a permit, and if you go with something like this, yes, you do? Because if they build a structure on there, no matter what, they are required.
they would have to follow the building ordinance requirements and meet minimum code standards from the building ordinance. And keep in mind, there's no public notice associated with that.
Right.
So,
Well, what I'm saying though, is just, we're going to get into a discussion shortly about the building department, okay? If somebody wants to have chickens, okay, and they call me and say, Bob, I'd like to have some chickens or whatever, I can present them this if we pass this new ordinance. Say this is what you're allowed to have. But at the same time, if you go to the building department, if I'm going to put an addition on my house, basically it gives me basic construction methods and procedures, et cetera, et cetera. Your staff is very helpful to explain to me when I need a building permit, when I don't need a building permit. So in the meantime, I'm going to have somebody call and say, I have a garage there, I want to put a little shed on the back of the garage to house some chickens. Do I need to get a building permit for that type of structure? So all I'm asking for is clarification on it, so that maybe we can develop something as the building department that says, permitted structures that do not require a building permit, and if you build a structure like this, you need a building permit.
yeah. I'm not trying to avoid answering your question, but like I said, people house chickens in many different ways. And my recommendation would be is, here's what the zoning ordinance requirements are. Please contact the building division of the Will County Land Use Department with your proposed structure.
Okay.
And have them make a determination what code requirements apply.
Judy?
So I would like to know, have clarification as to what would the cost be if somebody wants to do this? And it is a chicken coop, and there are all different ways to design a chicken coop. It's just housing chickens. I mean, I don't want, if somebody wants to have some chickens in their yard, I don't think we need to be overly strict on what type of coop. it's kind of like the crazy shed thing where you buy a shed at Menards and it doesn't pass our things. It's like, it's
back to
just
my
a shed, it's
This
just
is
a
my
chicken.
question, original question. That's, if we can give them something simple, the individuals, I mean, they could take a wheelbarrow and turn it upside down and put it in their yard and house chickens under there. You know, I mean, literally. So, but at the same time, somebody might go in there and say, I want to build this, I went to Menards or I seen their book there and they have this elaborate chicken coop. So in the meantime, then, at the same time, they go in there, and then they call their county board rep, and they say, it's gonna cost me $12,000 to build a chicken coop. Well, build a smaller one, or here's what you can do minimal.
I guess how I'd answer that is that the building ordinance requirements apply. And the building ordinance fees is applied to any type of construction in the county that requiring building permit would apply.
Steve? This is, we're talking about chickens, but I'm going to change the topic to dogs. If I go out and buy a guard dog, and that dog's going to live outside in a doghouse, do I have to go get a building permit and pay all the fees to have a dog? And how many dogs per square foot am I allowed to have to guard my house? We're getting into this over-regulation again that drives me nuts. If they want to have chickens, God bless them. Let them have a couple chickens. You said 21 chicken for 2,500 square feet. That's fine. But now if we're going to start saying it's going to cost you X amount of dollars for a permit and inspections to build a chicken coop, well, all right, then what about a dog? A guard dog that never goes in a house, lives outside in a doghouse. So we're going to start charging people to put up dog houses and tell them they have to get permits and pay fees and all this other stuff.
I wouldn't suggest that we've even been doing that.
Right, but that's the whole point of what I'm saying. I think that what we're trying to do is make the law less restrictive. So if they want to get a chicken or 2 chickens or whatever they're allowed, I wouldn't care about how many per square foot, but I'll go along with 1 chicken for 2,500 square foot, just to say, fine, at least we're doing something. But I don't think that we should be saying, well, now you have to build a coop and you have to get a building permit, which now all of a sudden the chicken costs 50 cents, and then in order to put the place you're going to house them in costs you another $1,000 for the material and another $1,500 for the permits. And it's like getting to the point where let's back off and just let them put they're not going to do something stupid. They got the chickens. They want to raise them either for education or for the eggs, and let them do it, and not make them jump through hoops to have a chicken.
If somebody wants to have a chicken in this ordinance with a fenced backyard, God bless them, leave it outside.
Right.
Don't build it.
Right, but we're having a conversation here about chicken coops. What you put down, I'm in agreement with. I agree, but I'm just, we're talking about doing coops and we're going to get a permit and is this going to be allowed? Let's just let them have the chicken and follow what you said. I thought that was fine. What you're proposing to me is fine.
And I'm not suggesting changing anything else.
Right? I'm just really jealous that a chicken gets 12,000 square foot and I have to live in a house with 3 other people and I only get an average of about 700 square feet.
Okay, so my thing is, a free-range chicken still has a coop to go into because they typically lay in. So if they are going to build something, as far as a coop would be, what is the cost going to be for these? It's just a chicken coop in their yard, and I don't know what kind of fee you guys are going to apply to that.
I don't have it off the top of my head per 1,000, or the cost of construction, but it's the same. It's same permit fee is applied to any other structure, any other building permit within the county, as under the building ordinance fee schedule. So.
But nobody's going to be living in that, just chickens. No, people are not going to be living in there.
If it sets on the ground, is that exempt then? If it just sets on if it sets on cribbing, if it sets on the ground, if there's no post?
I do not know the specifics on code requirements for, what's required as far as, the footings or things of that nature. It's building ordinance requirement.
So I just went on my phone, my smartphone,
Yeah.
I picked out 500 chicken coops out there. And all I'm saying is some of them are pretty elaborate. And then if we get into requiring a chicken, I would say, my gut feeling is say, okay, if you have chickens in your yard, you build a chicken coop, that's exempt from our building permits. The only problem that's going to happen is eventually there's going to be somebody there that's going to build one side of a garage or something, and then they just house a few chickens in there with their car. But you're getting into, you know, and again, along Steve's point, I mean, if we just go back to say, okay, the chicken coop is exempt. You know, if you purchase one, if it sets on the ground, sets it physically on the ground, it's not set on posts, on foundations, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, because what that does is that opens up a nightmare and it raises the cost of chickens. Then all we're doing is prohibiting them in another shape or form to actually afford chickens. That's all I'm saying, because years ago, like I have a chicken coop at home, the chicken coop sets on a slab. It used to set on runners, which it's exempt from a building permit because it's set on the ground. Now, I don't know if today, if I would build one today, if I would have to, if it sets on a slab, if I would have to get a slab permit, you know, a building permit. I don't know any of that, and I might have 12 chickens.
I mean, you also have to understand too, we're introducing a use into residential areas of a higher density area where you're putting potential structures in the backyards. And there are reasons for building code requirements, particularly with tying structures down so they don't become projectiles during storms and things like that. So I mean, required.
Sure, I understand what you're saying.
One of the concerns that was raised by the Farm Bureau is that when we're talking about chickens in residential areas, the construction of the chicken coop, it could come into question when you're talking about minimizing odors, and you know, also it's important to note that chickens are not pets. They are considered agriculture, you know, use. So that could be something to consider with the coop.
But I think the topic of today is the zoning ordinance. I think that's the first step. We need to move forward on the zoning ordinance if you guys want to change it. And if so, is the text before you acceptable? And the only other question I have is, do you want to limit the number of chickens in the R1 or 2 zoning districts to 1 per 2,500, or just let it go?
What would the quantity be if you left it at 2,500?
It would be 1 chicken per 2,500 square feet, so with a minimum lot area of 12.5. So otherwise, it just be, you know, whatever number they feel is appropriate for their own piece of property.
Right, I don't want to.
Those are larger lots anyways. So.
Right.
So it would be, what, like 6 or 7 chickens?
Well, they could have 20 if they want.
Yeah, 25, 30.
Yeah.
No roosters.
If the lot is real big, they could have more.
It's just, I'm just pointing out in the R1, R2 is that there's no limitation on number as this text is written.
I like that.
Good.
Nobody wants a limitation?
No.
There's no reason for it.
Okay.
No, wait a minute, I mean, if you get an R1 lot in the middle of a subdivision, I mean, you could have 200 chickens running around.
Possible.
Yeah, sitting on a fence on it.
That's why I'm bringing it to your attention.
Let's limit the number of chickens to 100.
But I mean, that's why I'm bringing it to your attention, is I just want to see if the committee wants to have me change that text to put a 1 per 2,500.
I think we should have the same restriction, 1 per 2,500.
I would request to make a motion and to have me change the R1, R2 to limit it to the number of chickens is limited to 1 per 2,500 square feet of lot area.
Let's double that. That would-
Or just go to 1,000 square feet on those large
Yeah.
lots.
That's-
Yeah. Now I'm going to make a motion that we approve this ordinance as written, with the exception for the R1 and R2 gets 1 chicken per 1,000 square foot of lot.
Yeah, that's reasonable.
But what about the chicken's friends? What about? I mean, don't they have to have?
I'm about to go eat a chicken, I'm going to be starving soon, let's go.
So give me, what is the size of an R1 and what is the size of an R2 property?
Now, keep in mind these are minimum lot areas. And sometimes you have lots that may be non-conforming or not created within compliance with the ordinance. It could be smaller. But the R1 lot is 60,000 square feet minimum, R2 is 40,000 square feet, R2 is 30,000 square feet, R3 is 20,000 square feet, and R4 is 12.5.
So an R1 could have 60 chickens, minimal.
Yes, if they have a larger lot, it could be greater.
I'll second Ray's motion.
I don't know, I don't think we have to worry about R1 and R2. Not everybody wants chickens, folks. Not everyone is gonna wanna go in a coop and clean up chicken crap. Not gonna wanna deal with eggs, believe me, I have chickens, I know what it entails, and not every single person is going to wanna do that. It's gonna be a small amount of people that wanna do that. I just don't see the need to restrict R1 and R2. We talk about less government, and then we're talking about more government. We
Well, I don't want that
We need to make up
either.
our mind what we wanna do here.
I just want to give them something better than what we're giving them.
And then you want to restrict them further, so that's my
Well,
opinion.
I would like no limit on it, but obviously won't, we got discrepancies here. So I would like the least restrictive thing we can possibly
Which is
get.
no limits on R1 and R2. You got limits on the rest, so.
You can always come back and change it again.
Yes, we
If
can.
somebody has a problem.
But they'll be grandfathered in.
So
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
could I ask a question? Is it possible the information that David just provided, good question that Judy asked, when we come to, this will be moved on to the county board meeting this month?
No.
No?
What this will be, they'll be sent to public hearing if the committee wants me to do that. I would suggest either January or February.
Yes.
Well, before January, February, that, David, if you can provide all 26 of us the information on the size of R1, R2, R3, the size of those lots, if we can have that information.
Sure.
I think that would help us as well. That was a very good question, help us determine when it does come to the full board.
There is one, I actually have livestock. There's one other question as too. If you get somebody in there for production livestock, that's actually producing the chickens for production, that's the danger in this. That's where you have the problem. Now, generally, most people that want chickens, they like free-range chickens where they can actually touch the ground. They can eat insects, it's organic, you're not feeding processed foods, et cetera, et cetera. And basically, I think that's who our target is out here right now. If you're moving into a residential area, and we could run in this in a different cultures moving in, and all of a sudden they say, hey, I'm gonna run a chicken producing entity here, whatever, I'm gonna incubate eggs, et cetera, then you could actually run into a problem. And then you run into sanitation, you run into that kind of stuff there too. So we might be chasing a problem, but I think for a resident that just wants to go out there and raise some chickens, and he might have 6 kids, 8 kids, or whatever, he needs a dozen eggs a day or whatever, I think that's what we should actually look at, use, common sense. That's like myself, I would never have 500 chickens because I don't need them, but.
Don't they do different zoning though? If you're gonna.
I'm agriculture. Well, not in R1, because technically.
R1, you could have a chicken.
This would be considered accessory use to the principal use. I wouldn't suggest that large-scale manufacturing or processing of eggs would be permitted. At most, to be a home occupation, but this would be considered accessory use. And if you have concerns regarding that, then you get back to this issue of do you limit the number of chickens per square foot or not?
Yeah, the chicken or the egg. We're back to the beginning again, to where if they're not going to raise, the average person is not going to raise 30 or 40 chickens at home. My guess is you're probably going to run into like the 20s somewhere, 24, 25 chickens, unless they have an abnormal attraction as chickens as pets or something, and they can't bring them back to, bring them to the end of their lives or something. But I think we just, and see, the other side of this too is I'd like to revert back to the Farm Bureau too, and go along their recommendations, or I think there's Illinois Poultry Producers Association, that kind of stuff too. And we're not the only ones that run into this problem. So again, I think that
Dunkin' Donuts not doing cage eggs anymore.
I think we should call the
Okay,
question.
listen, so in light of that, being able to produce on these properties, what we just come up with. I'd like to withdraw that motion and make the motion to approve what's in the packet.
Thank you. Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to forward this on to public hearing. As presented, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
Well, we just went full circle after 40 minutes.
Yeah, another horse.
Another chicken.
Reports and communications, I have none. Any committee members, any comments?
Yeah,
Steve?
an issue came up in my district where a family inherited some land, and they've been working with land use, and it seems like they're being told, at least my opinion is that they're telling the truth because it happened with me. They're saying they're getting conflicting information on the procedure that they need to follow to take 2.5 acres off of a 50-acre plot that was inherited by their whole family and build a house. And to me, the first problem is that they're being told that they have to get a subdivision permit, and there's just one house. Now, when I was talking to Natalie earlier, she said if it was 5 acres, they wouldn't need to get a subdivision permit. So my first thing is that, you know, I mean, these people probably should have a lawyer, but at the same token, I was told that, like for the sign-offs, that they won't have to go to each one of these places and have each district sign off. And then I told the people, don't worry about it, there'll be a meeting and you won't have to do all that. And then the next thing that happens, a gentleman named Jim Strong, I don't know who that is, tells them that they have to go get all these things. So, and they're indicating that they're being told one thing and something else at another time. So my problem that I want to address is twofold. The first one is that I need to know that we have a specific guideline for something like this that everyone has to follow the same way, and that that the people that are involved don't get told different things by different people. And with that said, I mean, I gave Natalie copies of the email, and with that said, I asked for information about the land use department probably about maybe 7-8 months ago, and about who works there and what they do and whatever. And I got a chart, but it was just a bunch of titles. And so I never heard of, I don't know who Jim, I'm not saying I'm supposed to know everybody that works for you, but we're constantly hearing that, you know, you need a new planner, you need another guy here. And I'm always saying, no way. And then I'm thinking to myself, well, maybe there's a possibility that they might need that. You know, but I don't know. I'm just going on the premise that you got all these people and you're always wanting more, and, you know, expanding the scope of the land use department. So I would like to have a list of every employee, whether they're union or non-union. You know, so you say the employee's name, union or non-union, their title, their duties, and their pay. And then we know who's where and what. Because I've been on this board for 3.5 years, and I don't know who's in charge of what, other than David and Mike and Kirk. You know, I mean, other than that, when I hear someone's name, I don't know. I'd like to have something where at least I know who's working for us, because I deal a lot with the land use, as you know, because people call me a lot. You know, so, you know, I don't think that's asking too much to get that list, and their pay also. That way I know how much money's being dished out. So when we're talking about budgets and levies, I know what's being paid out there. You know, and I'm not on the other committees, you know, where I can ask the department that, and I would if I could, but I can't because I'm not on those committees. So I was at the Health and Safety Department when Judy does, and they just came out and, you know, they're cutting all kinds of stuff to make their budget hit, and they're showing what they're doing there. And I don't know, I have no clue, and I'm not picking on you guys, so don't think it's like you guys are bad or something. I'm not trying to say that. I'm just trying, I want to know, I want the knowledge, so that when I'm talking, I can actually say for sure what I see on paper. So I'd appreciate you getting that, and I would imagine everybody on the committee would like to see the same thing. If they don't, then just me, and if I have to FOIA it, I would, but I don't think that's really appropriate for me to say, send you a FOIA to get that kind of information.
I'll convey your message to Kurt. I would say, though, that the department as a whole, over the past several years, has strived for efficiencies, and FTEs, full-time equivalents, have been substantially reduced in the past 8 years. So, but I'll convey the remainder of your message to Kurt. Now, on to the other matter, with regard to Ms. Massimore. The zoning ordinance and the subdivision ordinance do prescribe procedures that have to be followed. And I will convey to the committee that I am aware of this particular situation. These individuals do not have counsel, and they really don't have a consultant working on their behalf. So they do not fully understand the process. And I know the staff has been trying their best to kind of work through the process with them, and having a lot of meetings with them and phone calls and trying to convey this to them, work through this. With the zoning case, I anticipate that that's probably going to be scheduled for the first meeting in January. And from October to January, it's only about 60 days. Now, with regard to the plat, there is an exemption on the plat act if there's a split greater than 5 acres from the subdivision ordinance. But it has to be compliant with local zoning, which is the purpose of the map amendment. Now, if it's less than 5 acres, there's a minor plat of subdivision required, which is the preliminary and final plat approval at the same time. And yes, there are signature blocks on there from different jurisdictions that have to be obtained concurrently with the approval process. And that's what Mr. Song has been trying to work through them with and guide them on how to do this and accomplish this. And I'll check with them again and make sure that we reach out to them again. And if there has to be another sit down with them to really work through this and outline the process again and convey to them what needs to be done, even if we need to take the extra step to make sure that if they need help to do it, we'll make sure that it gets done. But I do also want to convey to the committee that I do, within pre-apps, it was also conveyed to them options for not having to go through a plat of subdivision process or a map amendment process. And that was, for instance, doing a 10-acre split under A1 with the minimum frontage, so they didn't have to have any zoning, any plat. But because of the estate issues and division of property, there was not an option to them. So that's why they chose to go this route.
Yeah, I just listened to them talking, and it's hard for me to grasp the whole thing, but when somebody says they want to build a house on a 2.5 piece of property that they own, and all they have to do is subdivide it out of the total piece that they inherited, it seems like it shouldn't be that much of a problem, but obviously there's a lot more involved. And maybe if and I don't know, because I don't. If they find out that if they take a 5-acre parcel, then they'd be exempt from a lot of this garbage.
We do give people a lot of options on how to achieve their desired goals. And again, one of the options that was provided to these individuals was an option to not have to go through any of this. But again, because of the estate situation, they had to go through this process.
All right, thank you.
Yeah, just along those lines, and I think, Steve, we got to always remember that we created this whole process. I mean, as elected officials, we set the policy.
Yep.
And if you want to eliminate some of the ordinances or whatever, I'm behind you. I'm behind you 110%. But all I'm telling you is good luck, because the majority of those people that sit on this board or whatever, they'll fight tooth and nail to keep those ordinances in place, and they developed over quite a few years. So I mean, all I'm saying is we can't continually come back, and the majority of my calls are to about land use, and we continue to come back to the employees here and say, well, why are you doing this? Why are you doing this? But the reason why they're doing it is because there's ordinances, policies that's set in place that we put in place as elected officials. So
absolutely, it's not
really
their
the problem is the elected official putting too much out there right now. That's the true problem. I mean,
I agree with you, Bob. That's what we were just talking with the chickens.
Yeah,
It's
exactly.
the same thing. Like we have to reel back the scope of our large government.
David?
And I think one thing that the committee and the county board can acknowledge, that a step forward that was done 2 years ago was when the farmstead split provision was provided within the zoning ordinance. It allowed a one-time split under the Plat Act without having to go through the plat of subdivision process. Again, provided it met the Plat Act requirement minimums to do so. So, and that's one thing that was done 2 years ago to remove an obstacle for individuals to do this.
So if you have a farmstead, you can actually split it at one time? What can you split it down to, though? Can you split it into 2.5 acre?
There's no minimum on it. It's basically under zoning, it makes it permitted, provided it's compliant with Plat Act. And again, there's 2 provisions within Plat Act. There's 2 particular dates, one in 1973 and one in 1959. They have the parcels in its original configuration at those dates at that time, and they can prove it. Then we'll go through the process, and it's an administrative approval.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, is there any other comments, questions? Have a motion to adjourn?
Second.
Motion second, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
We're adjourned.